6 a.m. Get up and get going on a very rainy, dark Thursday morning here. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, live from the 107.5 The Game studios. Hope you're up and doing well. Hump day for Preston Thorne. Day one after the NHL Finals. Day one of the NBA Finals, Preston Thorne. And we got plenty to break down as your Pacers, your Indiana Pacers, are set to take on the greatest team the NBA has ever known in the Oklahoma City
Thunder. One of the
Thunder.
greatest teams ever assembled, and that's why we're going to slay the Giant. We are going to be, it's a virtual David versus Goliath type of task that we are faced with, but we are deep, we are strong, we are focused, we are competitive, we have veteran leadership. My Pacers will prevail, and it starts tonight.
It does start tonight. We'll talk a lot about that this morning, get into a full breakdown of the Pacers Thunder. That's right. If you needed to go anywhere, any radio show and get the full breakdown of the Pacers Thunder, you've tuned into the right program this morning.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about the finals. We're going to talk about why this finals is important, but most importantly, talk about team creation. What makes a team good? What makes a team bad? Well, is there a superstar? There's a lot of things that we can talk about here.
Well, the other NBA storyline is still Tom Thibodeau getting fired after getting the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals. And Jen, let's hit the bumper. It's time for our most important things of the day.
Now on the early game, let's kick off the show with the MITs, the most important things on the game.
So the big picture is, why do coaches get fired? What exactly happens, Preston Thorne?
Tom Thibodeau got canned.
Yep.
After taking his team to the Eastern Conference Finals. After taking a team who had not seen the Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years. After taking a team who has terminally been a bottom dweller. Taking a team who had pieces put together like a jigsaw puzzle. And the leadership, the ownership, the management said, hey, Tom, see you later, buddy. And this has been a really fascinating Sunday. It's not fascinating because obviously we're not an NBA market, so we're not in the market for Coach Tibbs, whether we'll see. But I personally think it's interesting because coaches get fired all the time.
Okay.
If you look at the numbers on sports talk radio, there's no better time to be a talk show radio host than when the coach is on the hot seat. We love hot seat conversation. We've just finished having hot seat conversation. We might be having hot seat conversation coming up next year going into basketball season. This is what sports is all about. And so I think this is a really fertile ground for a lot of conversation about why do coaches get fired? When do they get fired? Did you want the coaches that have gotten fired in South Carolina since 2020, did you want them to get fired? Whose side were you on? Were they right? Were they right? Were they wrong? This is a very fun conversation.
So we'll get into a lot of that today in terms of, as you mentioned, coaches being fired. Tom Thibodeau gets fired. Look, as you just mentioned it, we discussed a little bit as to the relationship with Paul Maneri and the University of South Carolina. Was he on the hot seat? Was he not on the hot seat? What was the discussion there? We go back over the last... If you go back over the last 15 years, you look at South Carolina, Darren Horn and being fired. I remember that very prominently. I remember where I was sitting when I got the phone call he was going to be fired. I was in a coffee house and a coffee shop in Lexington. You go to Frank Martin in basketball and how that all went down. Baseball, we've seen Chad Holbrook and Mark Kingston. In football, it's been Will Muschamp. You think about the last 15 years and how things have kind of played out with the big three. Obviously, Dawn Staley has been as stable as anybody in what she's done. But you think about the big three in the sport. Again, football, baseball, basketball, and how all these firings have played out.
Also, we can take it if you extend it to softball. We just hired a new coach in softball. That previous coach got fired after taking the team to the regional. People were saying, well, we went to the regional. What's good enough without that? And so that's why, this is a very fun conversation to happen. I remember I positioned that maybe the Knicks are actually part of college sports because they do a lot of things that are not what professional teams do often. And so this is part of that conversation.
So we'll get kind of into a deep dive on that throughout the morning as far as the big picture of coaches and what's going on there. So we've got that. Last night in the NHL, I mentioned it. It's going to be a good series, Preston.
Come on, man. Sell it. Let's go.
I don't know.
Will there be a better game than this series?
No.
Probably not, right? That game was amazing.
That game was amazing, and they scored with 31 seconds left in overtime. And Draisaitl, I mentioned him the other day. Yeah, I'm going to go with Edmonton in this series after watching last night. Panthers looked like they were in cruise control, and Edmonton rallies and wins this thing. This is going to be phenomenal. That's going to be I don't think the NBA is going to be very good at all. I think it's going to be boring. I think it's going to be lopsided. Quite honestly, I think it goes 5 games. I think that the Pacers win 1, maybe win 2. That would be cool to see it get to 6 to give us hope that it's a good series. Edmonton and Florida is going to be if you like sport, you don't trust me on this. I've been here for the last 5-7 years, something like that. You don't have to know hockey. You just have to love good sport. You have to love competition. You have to love what hockey, you have to get into it a little bit and understand the pace of it, the physicalness of it, the urgency of it, all those great things this series is going to have.
Yeah, I mean,
and by the way, the NBA is not going to have that. The NBA is going to be boring. It's going to be an awful series. NHL, and I'm here, what is it, 606? 606. NBA, awful series.
Okay.
Don't watch.
Mark it down.
Stay away from it.
All right.
It's going to be bad.
That's a tough sell.
This one's going to be Edmonton, and Florida's going to be really good.
All right. It has everything that you said. The best player scores the best goal. Leon Draisaitl, who many people say is the best player on that team, even though Connor McDavid is recognized as the best player in the league. Interesting dichotomy there. They go up against one of the best goalies, Barbowski, and he stops them 3 times in overtime.
Yep.
3-point blanks, he stops. But guess what? You can't stop them enough because they're going to keep going. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep trying. So, yes, it is definitely a lot of fun to watch. They win that game. Overtime is something that's unique to NHL. What if they had sudden death in other sports? That'd be really cool. They don't. So that's a really cool aspect that they have. It will be fun. I don't know if there will be a better game than it was last night because that was a really fun game to watch.
I don't think there will be, but again, Edmonton rallies last night in the NHL and pulls off by Vegas standards the upset. Vegas standards, Edmonton was the underdog in that thing, but they win last night. So that'll be a lot of fun. Also, we are gearing up for a little bit of the College World, the softball College World Series and the Super Regionals. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned I said I'm a little bit more into the Women's College Softball World Series. I hate to admit it. My interest has kind of faded. Now, there's a storyline that has really intrigued you with Texas Tech and the NIL money that they've paid a pitcher and that it has paid off.
They have $1 million pitcher. They have $1 million. They paid a pitcher $1 million to go pitch, and she has pitched every inning in the World Series, and they've made it to the World Series, a place they have never been before. And this is where it gets really fun because one of our clips says, "You want the stupidity? Well, here we are. I'm here. I don't know anything about softball, but what I do know is if I paid a pitcher $1 million, I wouldn't want her to intentionally walk someone."
Generally speaking, no.
Yeah, they did that last night, and it did not work for them. So, yes, there is a very interesting conversation to be had about strategy. What do you do? How do you do it? Why would you do that? And, again, this is coming from me. I know nothing about softball. I just feel like if I paid somebody $1 million, I want her to go. I want my best against their best. They didn't do that last night against Texas Tech, and they took the L.
803-404-6100. So anything we discussed this morning, if you want to weigh in, give us a shout. Let us know. Talk about it. Again, we're going to get a lot into coaches' discussion this morning as far as it pertains to being fired. Tom Thibodeau is going to be kind of our center point on this because we're still trying to figure out why exactly he got fired. Were players behind him getting fired? Was management just not happy? Did players not want to play defense? Preston Thorne, that was about the funniest thing I heard yesterday was, these guys don't want to play defense like that for 82 games. Don't make us play defense for 82 games. Just make us play defense for the playoffs.
Yeah, and for Tibbs, you got to play not only 82 games, but you're going to play 60 minutes.
Exactly.
Maybe. You probably average 48 minutes per game. There's very empirical data that says, hey, Tibbs' team play a lot.
803-404-6100. So we'll get into all of that when we come back. We'll look at kind of the history of South Carolina's firing of coaches. As we just kind of mentioned it, you think about the last 15 years. You date back to Darren Horn. Basketball seen Darren Horn and Frank Martin. Football seen Will Muschamp. Baseball has seen Chad Holbrook and Mark Kingston. We'll get into all of that as we get you up and get you going. Try and be safe out there. Rainy this morning here in Columbia, but we'll carry you through the next 3 hours. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, it's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will come out and take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
I-26 eastbound there at St. Andrews Road. We have a report of an accident, so be mindful of that. The right exit ramp is actually blocked at this time, so make other arrangements if you're having to exit there. Again, that's I-26 eastbound at St. Andrews Road. The right exit ramp is blocked. 81, we are high today. Rounds of rain throughout the day, off and on, depending on the time of day, lesser chances than others. Tomorrow, though, sunny, 92 for the high. On Saturday, we'll have some late afternoon or evening storms, and we'll have a high of 93. Right now, 72 with a little bit of rain on 107.5 The Game.
Like you would do after every season, you take a step back, I think decompress, you do a deep dive on the team, and then you analyze what you think you need to improve upon, and then we have the draft, and then we have free agency, and there's trades, and then there's the internal development, and then it's the study and preparation for next season. And so it's a big off season for us.
That is the voice of Tom Thibodeau.
Us.
Well, this was prior to him finding out he was no longer wanted for his services as head coach of the New York Knicks. This is him talking after the Eastern Conference Finals about his next steps to get the Knicks to the NBA Finals. Problem is, he's not going to be the guy now trying to get the Knicks to the NBA Finals.
He didn't know at that time.
Did not know, obviously.
He's say, hey, guess what? We just won 50 games again. First time we've won back-to-back 50-win seasons in 25 years. We just went to the Eastern Conference Finals. We're good. We just one step away. We are going to make it. And Knicks manager was like, this is not French, sir. It's no we. We. Not us. You're out of here. And he got fired. And I think this is a really interesting way to get us into the conversation about how and when coaches get fired, because that is a large majority of the talk in college sports is hot seat. Who's fired? When are they fired? Did they fire him too early? Did they wait too late? Should they get another year? These are all the conversations that we consistently have.
Yeah, I mean, again, as you mentioned, Thibodeau took the Knicks to the first Eastern Conference Finals since 2000. A little while ago, I mentioned 2010 and 15 years ago and how long ago that's been. 2000, Preston Thorne, you and I were enrolling at the University of South Carolina at that moment.
What makes you feel better, if I say that it was 25 years ago or if I say that it was in 2000?
25 years ago.
That feels better.
It just feels, yes.
Okay.
2000 dates me as to where I was. Like, it's 25 years, I gotta do there's some math involved. I gotta think about it a little bit. But if you just say 2000, I know exactly where I'm at that point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to navigate college and figure out where my next meal was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
25 years ago, I'm just like, well, that could have been yesterday. I don't know. I'm getting older. I can't quite remember. I can't do the math on that. But to your point, so Tom Thibodeau gets fired. This isn't so much about the New York Knicks and about where they're going to go as much as it is how interesting it is to you to see a organization or an athletic department make this decision to fire somebody.
So when they fired him, the word from team president Leon Rose was that they have a singular focus on winning championships. They're singularly focused on winning championships for their fan, and it was best for their organization to move forward, moving away from Tibbs. Now, without getting way deep into basketball weeds, the question kind of becomes, was that team where they were because of Tibbs, or were they inhibited by Tibbs' liability and the things that he did as his coaches? And again, we're not asking you to be deep in the weeds New York Knicks fans, but the facts are that they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. They have a veteran coach who has some sauce to him. There's reputations behind him, and apparently the organization felt like he was the hindering factor before they could move forward. And so if we was to put this into college football terms, and I would love to talk to Tyler about this feels very similar to the Mark Richt conversation. Mark Richt was a very good coach. He would get Georgia to win 8 to 9 wins every year, maybe 10. They'd go to the Peach Bowl. They'd go somewhere, but they could never win the big one. And people were like, when they fired Mark Richt, because Mark Richt, one of the best dudes in college football, was fired, like eventually all coaches eventually do. If you get the phrase is, if you get into coaching, be ready to get fired, because you will. And so Mark Richt, one of the best characters, one of the most winningest coaches, he gets fired from Georgia. A lot of people did not like that happening at that time. There were a lot of people who said, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And then there was some people who said, ooh, Kirby. And Kirby's taking that program to another level that Mark Richt could not get them to. So that particular decision proved to be the right decision. We have other instances where maybe it wasn't the right decision, and that's where we want to talk about today.
The Kirby Smart one's interesting because there's a lot of people that say the only reason Mark Richt got fired is because South Carolina was set to hire Kirby Smart. That was going to happen, and obviously Georgia saw that little domino about to fall and said, nope, we're going to go ahead and snap him up, and we're going to make a change of leadership. You go back, and I start with Darren Horn because I was always fascinated by that scenario. I was working for thebigspur.com. I was covering that, and the postseason for him was a very, very bad basketball season, on par with what we just saw, on par with what we just saw both from basketball and from baseball. But you bring up, why does a coach get fired? And I think this is a very interesting thing because Darren Horn had a bad season. Tom Thibodeau didn't have a bad season. The difference was Darren Horn at that time, Eric Hyman specifically came out and stated, I do not see us having a future. I do not see us coming back from where we are with Darren Horn leading this team. And I always remember that statement because it's forward thinking. All right, what have you got right now? What are you going to have in a year, in 2 years, and 3 years? And remember, this is all pre-transfer portal. But Eric Hyman looked into the future, looked into his crystal ball, and said, you're not the guy to lead our program.
And he was right. Maybe. Does the basketball program get to the heights that it got to if he doesn't make that move? That's the idea of future leadership. That's the idea of this conversation of when do you make the move or when don't you make the move as far as hiring a new coach. So that's Darren Horn. But there's been other coaches that have been hired because let's just stay with basketball here. The next coach comes in, Frank Martin, has a long tenure, and then for maybe 2 years there's conversation about will he or won't he? Is he staying? Is this last year? Should he get one more year? Should he not get one more year? And the main sticking point for everybody having the conversation about not firing Frank was, we went to the Final Four. Who else has ever taken us to the Final Four? And then other people were like, yeah, but. And that's sort of the same conversation we're having here with Tom Thibodeau. They're like, yeah, we went to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they're like, okay, but can he get us to the next level? And that's sort of the conversation with Darren Horn and with Frank Martin when Frank Martin was eventually fired, like most coaches do end up getting fired.
So 2 things on the Frank Martin thing. One, if you looked at it, I think the bigger thing was that was the most prolonged success South Carolina had in basketball since the 70s. Now, was this, as you just pointed out, was the success to the level of what people wanted? And I think also there was not a realization, but a general feeling of, did they capitalize on getting to the Final Four? To which I would always say, like, look, how many teams do you see really capitalize, like Cinderellas, if you will, capitalizing on getting to the Final Four? Technically, you could probably look at Oregon, a team that we just played in the NCAA tournament. People forget, Oregon got to the Final Four that year. It was Oregon, North Carolina, Gonzaga, and South Carolina. Did Oregon really capitalize on getting the Final Four that year? They've sustained success. They've had some good years, certainly, but did they really capitalize on getting to the Final Four? So I think the Frank Martin discussion was really interesting. I do think Frank Martin is more of a guy who, at some point, the relationship just wears out. Shane Beamer, I don't know if I can say that for him. The relationship he has with the university and the fan base and the way he does things, I'm not sure that relationship wears out. And Preston, sometimes I look at a situation like Tom Thibodeau, who can be a little prickly. A little prickly. Can be very set in his way. Now, I will give him this. He changed this year. This, I think, and I can't remember the exact number, but this particular NBA team that he has coached shot more threes than he ever had. He changed his style up to be a little bit more fast-paced with the personnel he had. So at least he was adaptive in some way, shape, or form. But Tom Thibodeau also is, again, the kind of guy who just, I think, wears on people around the office, and that's why a change was made. Frank Martin, I think, generally was liked by everybody here, but we know what his on-the-court demeanor was.
I think there's a direct comparison between Tibbs and Frank Martin. The fans love Tibbs. The fans, the New York Knicks fans, thank you, Tibbs. We love him. Hard, gritty, all of these different types of things. The players are like, you don't have to play for this guy. He's awesome, and we win, but, man, it's tough. You look at the conversations that I had with NBA players who play for Tibbs, and they're like, yeah, these minutes he's demanding. We run these minutes up. And so the organization looks and says, that singular question you just asked, if this guy is here, do we have a future of winning the championships? And obviously the Knicks said no, and obviously at the time the administration here said no with Frank Martin.
And I think in baseball it becomes even more interesting, especially around here. I've always said Chad Holbrook and college baseball teams and college baseball programs won more than enough. This is one of the 10% that's like, no, we haven't seen Omaha. We're not hosting enough regionals. We're not hosting enough super regionals. And that's fine. That's the standard that's set. I'm okay with that. You and I kind of joke off air about it. So Chad Holbrook has gone down to Charleston and is living a pretty nice life right now. And he's being successful. He's not getting the NCAA tournament maybe as much as they like, but some of that they look at that I've seen is going, well, the little dog, the underdog, the little guy is getting worked over in this situation because we're not a Power 4, Power 5 school. We don't get quite the bids that we should have got to receive for Charleston to get in. But Chad Holbrook was another guy that Ray Tanner had to make a very tough decision on.
He had to make it, and that was one of his guys. That was his guy.
Exactly.
He had to make that tough decision. And there were people when that decision was made that said, there are still people that said, man, you should have kept Holbrook. And there were people who said, no, we need to move on. This is the conversations that are had, and we will continue to have the conversation.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. Yeah, again, a lot to get to just in terms of seeing where these situations go, how they play out. Always very interesting. And, again, you look at South Carolina's firings and hirings. I think by the time Will Muschamp reached 2-6, I believe it was 2-5, something like that, with the back-to-back losses to LSU and then Mississippi, I think there was a lot of agreement that guy's got to go, that he had sucked the life out of South Carolina football.
A lot of agreement. Not unanimous agreement, though.
Okay. We'll continue discussing that. 803-404-6100. If you want to weigh in, you're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank. Let me tell you, I used Jacob Crowder to purchase my home about 5 years ago at this exact time. And I can tell you the professionalism, the way he was able to get the answers I needed, get me the interest rates that I needed, the down payment, the monthly mortgage payments, absolutely perfect. So as we're rolling through the month of June, if you're thinking about refinancing, if you are thinking about building a home or buying a home, the first phone call you need to make is to the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. First Palmetto Bank, locally owned and operated, which means Jacob has quick and precise underwriting from local decision makers. But you got to take the first steps. You got to give them a phone call today and see what options, what interest rates, what plans are available to you. So make that phone call, 803-719-1005. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
We have a report of a vehicle that is on fire, I-26 westbound at exit 102. So heading out of the area, I-26 westbound there at exit 102, a vehicle on fire. I-26 eastbound at the ramp there at St. Andrews Road, exit 106. The right exit ramp is currently blocked. And going to see some showers off and on throughout the day. 81 will be our high, clearing out for tomorrow. It's going to be sunny and 92, so definitely feel a little more summer-like. It'll be 93 on Saturday with a chance for some afternoon, late in the day, showers and storms. Right now, though, 72 with the light rain in the Midlands.
.634 as we roll along, little programming note. We will have Mr. Josh Harris, Darlington Raceway president, coming up this morning a little bit earlier than usual, about 7:15. So coming up about 40 minutes from now, Josh Harris from Darlington Raceway will join us as we look at our Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge, to which Josh, by the way, making a run. I don't know if you guys have looked at this. He's quietly creeping up on Reggie and I, so we'll catch up with him coming up here in about 40 minutes. 803-404-6100. So earlier this week, Preston, I kind of brought up, and this is more in defense of Kevin Schnall and Coastal Carolina, I don't quite like I think because when South Carolina was going through this, we were always in a position to host a super regional. The vast majority of the time. Not all the time. We all remember them going to Coastal Carolina and knocking them off. I think that was 2010. But South Carolina was always pretty highly seeded as far as national seedings go. I really caught more attention to this post this weekend with Coastal Carolina having to go to Auburn. But also it felt like, I don't know if this is parity. I'm not sure if it's just a slew of upsets or what. But when you see the number 1 and number 2 national seeds get eliminated, as well as a few others, you kind of start to question, okay, how do you handle playoffs? And Greg Sankey, we're going to listen to Greg Sankey in just a minute. Greg Sankey has addressed maybe reseeding the college football playoff after the opening round to make sure that the best teams maybe have the most fair, how do we want to word this, the most fair advantage?
The better teams get the advantage that they earn throughout the season.
And we agree that is fair, correct? That is the way, is that the way it should be?
If you want to make the regular season mean something, yeah, I do think it means something for you to have that seed, for you to be ranked that high, for those metrics to mean something, that eventually if one of those teams that are higher than you fall. The NFL is having the same. NFL, matter of fact, just put in a rule for their playoff system where they could avoid the situation where, let's say, the Panthers win the NFC South, but they're terrible.
Right.
And they get a chance to host a playoff game against another team just because they won their division. So the NFL has remedied this same situation. So it seems like there's a conversation that's happening across sports.
Let's hear. This is Greg Sankey talking about, he was on Dan Patrick, talking about the possibility of reseeding the teams after the first round in the college football playoff.
We've talked about this before. You know, given the scheduling and hotel rooms and travel of reseeding after the first round of games, is that on the table at all anymore?
Well, not really reseeding, because almost, a week and a half ago, for the 25 season, this College Football Playoff Management Committee, which is the commissioners and the Notre Dame athletic director, agreed to just go to straight seeding by ranking. So the movement of teams outside the top 4 into the top 4, that won't happen in 2025. You're gonna get what you earn. Same for home games. We've not gone back into the reseeding question. And Dan, if you go back to June of 21, which was like ancient history in college sports, when the 12-team model was introduced, and we went back through this about a month ago with everybody involved on that management committee. One of the questions was, should we be in reseeding? We never really got back to that because you remember the SEC had this little expansion to 16, great disruption in the force. Then we had 22, an expansion of the Big Ten. So we waited around for a year, and now we've been in hurry-up mode since. So we haven't talked so much about reseeding as we did just about honoring the rankings in the bracket.
So how do you take what he's saying right there in terms of reseeding, whether it's baseball, NCAA regionals to super regionals, you could go as far as saying NCAA basketball tournament. After the opening 32 games, actually it's after the opening 48 games, 32 to start, and then 16 afterwards.
Well, they made a distinction between reseeding and straight seeding. So what they're doing with this year with the CFP is they're going to straight seeding, where you just 1 through 12, and that's how it is, regardless of conference championships, regardless of affiliations. The first team is the first team. You don't get – so that is the idea of straight seeding. I do agree with that. Now, the idea of reseeding, that might get complicated when – as he said, there's logistics involved and things of that nature. With a tournament where you're not necessarily sure who's going to be hosting, I do think for baseball purposes, might be a little bit easier to actually reseed as opposed to the conversation of football, which is straight seeding.
Okay, and football, I think you can mess around because you've got a little bit more of a time frame, and the way, I think this also helps, the way it is determined of going to a neutral site against traveling to a home venue right now in the second round, because what we're talking is the reseeding process. So let me give you an example here of this, because you look at how this is all played out for baseball purposes. All right, you have 5 teams remaining out of the 8, 5 teams remaining that were national seeds. 5. Number 4, Auburn. Number 5, North Carolina. Number 8, Oregon State. Number 9, Florida State. And number 13, Coastal Carolina. My argument in this is they should then be bumped up to 1 through 5 out of the 8 teams. Or, excuse me, out of the teams remaining here. So what you end up getting right now is those 5 teams, I think, and then number 15, LSU, number 6 LSU, number 15 UCLA, number 3 Arkansas, and number 14 Tennessee. So these teams should be bumped up. They should all be moved up, in my opinion. And then teams like Murray State or Duke, West Virginia, Texas, San Antonio. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know so much about baseball that I would know exactly how to seed those teams. Miami, Louisville also involved in that. But me personally thinks that the team that earned it through the season, Coastal Carolina is a national seed. Tennessee's a national seed. I think Tennessee got worked over worse than Coastal Carolina because they're probably having to go play the absolute best team in the country in Arkansas, but they're a national seed, whereas to me, even though they're going on the road, Murray State, who is not a national seed, has the easier road to Omaha because they're going on the road to Duke.
Yeah, that's probably true, but that's one of the things we always talk about with tournaments is the brackets. That's one of the fun of brackets. Looking at this bracket, you're like, okay, how many people do we have a good draw? What's our bracket look like? That's part. Hey, you know how you avoid this conversation? You win. And then you get a chance to move forward. You play in your bracket and you win.
That's the point.
You're gonna have to win eventually. Whether you beat Arkansas now, you beat Arkansas later, you're gonna have to win eventually.
Well, the difference on that is though, Coastal's got to go win on the road against Auburn. They were a national seed.
Good. Let's go.
Why does Duke get to host? Why doesn't Coastal get to host?
That's how the brackets fall, bro.
You can easily reseed this and have Coastal deserved it based on their season, based on the fact that they were a national seed. They should get the advantage, right? That's what you were just talking about with the NFL. Based on their season, they should have the advantage in the super regionals. Now, that doesn't mean they get an easy draw. They still, as you said, they've got to win. But why are they being punished for being a national seed when Murray State and Duke, Duke more, is gaining an advantage?
That's how the cookie crumbles, dog. I don't know what to say. Murray State was not supposed to win. They upset their team, and they're moving forward.
Well, but so did Coastal. The difference here is, again, Coastal is being punished in this situation going to play number 4 Auburn. By the way, that's a whole other story about turning that baseball program around, and it does go to show you South Carolina can turn things around in 1 year. But I'll give Tennessee the same. Tennessee was a very good baseball team that played in a power baseball conference. Most people would tell you that Arkansas probably is the best team in the country, probably easily could have been the number 1 national seed. Again, Murray State gets an advantage here over Tennessee. Tennessee's got a harder road to get to the College World Series, despite the fact that their regular season was much more impressive than Murray State, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. But Murray State gets to go to Duke. And by the way, should Murray State or whoever Murray State and Duke comes out of that regional, well, they actually have a little bit easier road to the national championship because their first round, whoever wins, the way it lines up is Texas, San Antonio, and UCLA would actually be their opponent in the opening game of the College World Series.
All right.
So we don't have an answer for that, right?
Yeah, that's all. So I mean, that is something to think about.
It's bottom line is it needs to be reseeded. You need to give the teams who you've already honored and told, hey, you're one of the 16 best, you need to give them the advantage. They need to, just going and winning a regional, again, you look at Louisville, and I don't think Louisville's a bad baseball team, but Louisville gets the advantage. They beat Vanderbilt once in their regional. Then Vanderbilt got eliminated by Wright State. So it's not like Louisville did all the heavy lifting in that regional to get out of it.
That's all I got. I don't think I have anything else after that because they're still going to have to play the games and they still have to play the seeds that they have in front of them. So
the difference is if you get it's like South Carolina getting to play Furman or Wofford or a smaller school to get to the college football championship as opposed to, say, Texas having to go through Georgia and Ohio State. We would agree. That's the harder road. Whether you got to play. And when you get to these, now this is a little different because of the fact that it is a 3-game series, but you get into a 1-game winner-take-all, to me, it's kind of like what we see in the NCAA basketball tournament. Things can go kind of haywire. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. We'll come back, wrap up the hour here, discuss a little bit of, again, coaches being fired. Who would have you given an extra year to? We'll discuss that. 803-404-6100, it's the early game. Bill Gunner for Zero Rest Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. It is officially summer. The kids are home. The carpets are probably staying pretty dirty. But you know what? With Zero Rest and their patented ZR water technology that does not leave behind a sticky, soapy residue. No harsh chemicals. You can feel comfortable with the kids, the pets, and yourself rolling around on the carpets this summer. So give them a phone call. 803-262-4020. Again, that's 803-262-4020. Call today. Mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and you will get 15% off all cleaning services. That's right, 15% off. Carpets, air ducts, area rugs, tile, upholstery, whatever. Just mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 15% off all cleaning services. So again, give them a phone call, 803-262-4020, or schedule online, ZeroRestColumbia.com. Zero Rest, spell it backwards or forwards, is the right way to clean. We're wrapping up hour number 1 here. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, as you get out and make your way to your office, to your vacation spot today. Probably not the lake, Jen. I believe the weather not expected to get much better today than what we are currently experiencing with a little rain, but we'll get you through, so get up and get going. As Preston and I here have discussed a little bit of NCAA baseball reseeding. We've discussed a little bit of coaches being fired and the reasoning behind some of it. And Preston, it's time for Preston's questions, and you've got one this morning.
Since COVID, there's been 4 firings at the University of South Carolina. The major 3 have been replaced. Will Muschamp, Frank Martin, and Mark Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
Out of these 3 coaches, 803-404-6100, which one would you have given another year? That's always the conversation that's had. He needs to get one more year. He just got to get his guys. Or we're right on the verge. Or here it is. And this is all in reference to Tom Thibodeau for the New York Knicks being fired after taking his team to the Eastern Conference Finals, winning back-to-back 50-win games for 2 seasons in a row. The first time they've gone to the finals in 25 years, and he got canned. And so my question is 803-404-6100. Out of the big 3, Mark Kingston, Will Muschamp, Frank Martin, out of the big 3, which one would you have given another year?
I think it's easy. Now, I'm using a little bit of what I kind of know and how I think it would have played out. So that I think gives me a little bit of advantage. I'd have given Frank Martin one more year. The team he had coming back, he was going to get G.G. Jackson, and the way I kind of believe that situation was going to play out, whatever happened, win or lose, and his contract also played into this, win or lose, he was gone after. Was it 3, 4, 5? So his last year was 2021. Am I right on that? 2021, 2022. But whatever it was, that was going to be his last year. He was either going to win that year, and I think he was going to win with that roster, and I think he takes another job, or he was going to lose, and that roster, again, at that point, he was going to lose everybody. If you go back and you look at how that roster was set up, Keyshawn Bryant, Old Man, Jermaine Cousinard, Devin Carter was probably going to be gone. Like, whatever happened, that was your last dance of Frank Martin. I think it got cut 1 year short. Now, some people argue and say, well, fine, we just went ahead and sped up the rebuilding process. Will Muschamp had sucked the life out of South Carolina football, and much like we discussed with Darren Horn, I'm not sure what the future was with Will Muschamp. Mark Kingston, I can see, well, this is where the hindsight is great, because we just went through this year.
It's all part of the conversation.
But, yeah, it would have been, South Carolina would not have, nothing again, this isn't a knock on Lamont Paris, all right, at all. But South Carolina would have not had Lamont Paris's first year if Frank Martin was there.
That's possibly true. This is why this
I
is
think
all
it's
good.
true. I don't think there's a question about it. They wouldn't have. Well, no, that much I can almost guarantee. And this, again, not when Frank left, obviously, or when Frank was fired, we know what happened to that roster, and then Lamont Paris had to start basically from scratch. Not his fault. That's the way it went. But, no, they would not have had the year that they had with G.G. Jackson and with that group, unfortunately. Now, does that mean they would have gotten to the NCAA tournament? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying that roster would have remained intact, and that there's a good possibility that, well, there would have been very reasonable calls for firing him with that roster and not making the NCAA tournament.
803-404-6100. Who should have deserved an extra year?
Send him in. We'll get into that. Josh Harris coming up at 7:15 this morning. A lot to do, a lot to discuss. If you want to weigh in, 803-404-6100. It's the early game.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. All the demolition in the kitchen that we had to do, had a really good experience with them and decided that we needed to update some bathrooms and went right back to CHW Cabinetry. So helpful choosing out what cabinetry we were looking for in the kitchen. Very helpful as far as laying out the design, kind of change things up a little bit from how we'd had it before. Then we got the photorealistic rendering of the kitchen being completely done before, obviously, it was even done, and that helped us put together all of the other elements. But you don't have to do major remodels to use any of their services. If you're looking to update something, maybe a bedroom closet, get rid of the wire hanging racks, maybe a couple drawers to put in there, they can help you with that as well and make your closet space just a lot more functional. CHWCabinetry.com. Visit them today or call them at 803-520-6837. And, of course, tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. Passion from inspiration to installation. I-77 southbound at Bluff Road, the right lane is currently blocked. I-26 westbound, exit 102, a vehicle on fire, so allow for time because there could be a slowdown there. And then I-77 northbound at Bluff Road, there is also a report of an accident. Earlier tie-up on I-26 eastbound has been cleared. So there's good news there. We could see some rounds of rain throughout the day today, 81. That will be our high. Then when it gets cleared out for tomorrow, we should hit a high of 92. Some late afternoon, early evening thunderstorms are possible, and some thunderstorms Saturday night, Saturday day, later in the afternoon, and then Saturday night. Chances for thunderstorms. And Saturday looking for a high of 91. Right now, though, it's a little bit overcast, some scattered rain across the Midlands, 72.
Up and Adams, 7 a.m. on your Thursday morning. As Preston Thorne refers to it, hump day.
This is hump day.
Get through it, get over it, get to Friday, get set for the weekend. Jen, I believe you've told us good weather for the weekend. Rainy today and tomorrow, but good weather for the weekend.
Yeah, there could be some thunderstorms on Saturday, maybe later in the afternoon.
Okay. All right. So
But we'll take what we can get.
That's right. We'll get there.
It's great times now. You have the isolated thunderstorms. It only comes in the summertime.
Heats up just enough.
Isolated thunderstorm. One of my favorite summer terms.
You're relaxing. You're having a good time. You look over. Oh, clouds. Here they come. Okay,
Isolated
everybody inside.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get to that. We'll get to some baseball chop talk. We got NCAA Super Regionals. Preston threw out a question. I'm going to throw out another one here in a second. So going back to our last segment, which coach that has been fired post-2000, post-2020, post-COVID, should have gotten another chance? Mark Kingston, Frank Martin, Will Muschamp. I'll keep my eyes out to see if anybody sends in Will Muschamp. I'll stay on the text line to see if anybody sends in Will Muschamp. Let's fire through. A lot of these, though, John goes with none of them. KT from Lexington goes with Frank Martin. Danny says Frank Martin, 100%. Ronnie with Frank Martin. Ray says Frank, hands down. Paul weighs in and said, based on what has happened since the firings, and this was early 2000, or excuse me, this was pre-2020, but based on what has happened since the firings, I would pick Chad Holbrook. I also thought at the time that it was a premature firing. South Carolina baseball fans' expectations were being met. Some fans had unrealistic expectations, though, due to a fortunate 3-year run at the tail end of Ray Tanner's tenure. And that's actually a great point on that with Chad Holbrook. Now, I know that backdates a little bit of your question there, but Chad Holbrook's probably an interesting decision that we could get into when you talk about those coaching firings and hirings and everything.
Yeah, because that did happen, and he was, by most stretches of any definition, he was successful, but he wasn't successful up to the standard that was set. And that's why I kind of keep honing in on that Mark Richt conversation, because we would have killed to have what Mark Richt did at Georgia. That would have been great for us. Wasn't good enough for them, and they saw a guy. The problem with the Holbrook hire is that we jumped off the cliff, and we didn't have our parachute. And we was like, we're going to get rid of this guy, and who are we going to hire?
We know,
Mark Kingston.
We know that answer. They were going to, what did you call him yesterday?
A spectacular butthole.
That was the guy. I could be wrong on this. I remember doing this particular radio show at the time. I remember the day that we joked. Jen, I don't know if you remember this. We joked that basically Mark Kingston was being interviewed strictly as just like, oh, we got to interview somebody. Let's walk him by the 107.5 The Game studio. So they're like, oh, that guy actually is being interviewed. Because the word was that South Carolina and Kevin O'Sullivan were in deep negotiations, and Kevin O'Sullivan makes this great. Now, whether that's legitimately true or not, I don't know. But that was kind of the word at the time. You know, was that a smokescreen? Was that a Sean Miller's at Hall's Chop House kind of situation?
I was just going to say, did we happen to see anybody at Hall's? Because that would have told us who was in the interview pool.
I don't truly know when Hall's opened. Were they open in 2017?
I don't think that early. Okay. I'd have to look it up, but I don't think so.
But yeah, that's.
So where were we taking people before that to get our scoops?
Good question.
Zestos? Like
good.
Village Idiot.
Good question.
Oh, there you go.
They were going to see Brian Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Glenn was actually doing the interview process for pretty much all the coaching and hirings at that point.
That actually wouldn't surprise me. And maybe, threaten to rough them up if they didn't take the job.
That's right. We had the Godfather on it there, Brian Glenn. 803-404-6100. We'll get back into that conversation. A lot of y'all weighing in. Another texter and I kind of agree with this, weighs in and says, as much as I love Frank Martin, Mark Kingston should have gotten another year because he at least got the baseball team to the tournament back-to-back years. Now you face the real possibility of not making it back-to-back years.
That's why I asked the question.
That's a good answer.
I'm with that on the Kingston thing because I think, 2 years super regionals, okay, didn't go terribly far. Seasons were a little similar. 24 is a little bit not as good. But I don't know, another year, I think he might have been able to do something.
So we'll continue this discussion. That's a good point, Jen, from you. A lot of good texts coming in. 803-404-6100. You can weigh in on that. Let's get to a little bit of Chop Talk this morning.
Chop Talk.
Hammered, left field, gone! Ronald Acuna, another milestone in a truly historic season.
On the Game Network.
Well, there is the lots happening in Atlanta. A lot's happening, Preston Thorne. We've got not necessarily a firing. We have a demotion.
Yeah, tell that to him. Sir, it's not you, it's us.
Matt Tuiasosopo has been relieved of his duties as the third base coach. They will now bring back a former head. This is really a wild, in our coaching discussion, this is really a wild discussion because Matt Tuiasosopo, by the way, when I saw the name, I was like, wait, the former Washington quarterback has been coaching third base for the Braves?
Good call.
Maybe this explains a few issues. But Freddie Gonzalez, former head coach, former guy who was the head coach while Brian Snitker worked under him as third base coach, now Freddie Gonzalez back as the new third base coach in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, as I was reading about the relationship, as you looked, you had Freddie Gonzalez, which Brian Snitker. Then Freddie Gonzalez got relieved of his duties. Then Brian Snitker took his job, and then Brian was like, "Hey, Freddie's available. This guy over here is messing." And this has been a thing all season with the Braves as far as when they are being aggressive, when they are not being aggressive. And I think it all came to a head last week when I forget the player's name, was running to third base, turned around and went back to second base, got doubled off. They lost the game by 1 run. That was the cherry on top of the sundae, which Matt Tuiasosopo has been kind of.
Somebody has to be the fall guy.
Well, it's him. It's him. And so there's some statistics to back it up. The Braves this year are 9-14 in one-run games and 13-20 in games decided by 1 or 2 more runs. What does that mean? Is that the pitching? Is that the bullpen? Yes, the bullpen needs work. Yes, they're not hitting. Yes, they're not. They're Austin Riley's making errors in the field. All of those things are true. But when they look at the analytics, they feel like your boy is too aggressive on third base.
That's fair.
And they're getting a lot of outs made out at home. And they decided, hey, it's time for you to go back and learn a little more baseball in AAA, sir.
So he's out, and this comes amidst a big slide for the Braves. Maybe 2 weeks ago, probably in that area, they had gotten to 500. They seem to be kind of rallying. Things seem to be turning for them. And now it's not. I mentioned it. I was in Atlanta on Sunday, May 25th. Well, we saw them lose. Austin, Ansley, myself, we saw them lose. And it's just carried over. Since then, that was the start of losing 7 games in the last 9. So 3-10 if you look at it, 3-7 over the last 10. But 7 of the last 9 the Braves have lost. They are currently in the middle of being swept, I guess. They play today at 12:15. But last night, they lose to Arizona. Chris Sale, here's part of it. Chris Sale and Spencer Strider, right now a combined 3-8 pitching. Spencer Strider 0-4 by himself.
Yeah, Spencer Strider was quoted as saying, "I don't have my stuff." He's got his control, but he doesn't have his stuff, and he's coming off of an injury, which you were hoping that he would have time to sort of get his stuff together, but the Braves have not given him that time. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, there's also other injuries on the pitching staff. So as much as we've been holding out hoping this would be like 2021, with like, there's some hope out there, I don't know. And here's the problem, Bill. When the GM starts saying things like this, he starts pulling out new analytics.
Oh, boy.
Have you ever heard this thing called expected wins?
I think I actually have heard that.
So when you look, this is what Alex Anthopoulos said. He said, well, I look at things like run differential and things like that. Our expected win total is a lot better than our actual win total. What are expected wins? You may or may not know. Expected wins is a statistical measure that estimates a team's potential winning percentage based on their performance rather than their actual current rating. So if we were to go by if we were to take the Braves' expected wins and put them in the standings, they'd only be 6 games back, Bill.
Okay, well, I feel better now.
There you go. So we're just going to have to go by our expected wins, not the actual record.
He also could point out that the Braves this season in run differential, +7.
That's what he's saying.
They're +7. I mean, by comparison, the Milwaukee Brewers are 34-29. They're +25. Not a huge difference. By comparison, the Washington Nationals, a game and a half ahead of the Braves, are -40 in run differential.
That's what he's saying. He's saying, hey, listen, in the long run, this thing will play out. And you know what, Alex? You get paid to have that feeling. As a fan, I'm looking at our actual record. The actual record puts us 9.5. Wait, did I just
11.5? 11.
It was 9.5 when I first started working on this. It's 11 in games back now. So, and as I've keep positioning all year, the problem is not the actual record. The problem is that they are behind the other teams that are going to be either competing for the division and or the wild card.
Yeah, looking around the league, you mentioned it, the Mets 39-23 right now. The 39 wins, second most in Major League Baseball behind, yeah, you guessed it, the well-known Detroit Tigers. Can you name a player on the Detroit Tigers right now?
Mickey Templeton, man. Cecil Fielder. He's still there. Justin Verlander might be the most recent one I got for you. Prince Fielder.
I'm trying to. I'm going to glance real quick and see if I recognize any of these names for the 41-22 Detroit Tigers.
Best in the league, correct?
Best in the league. Mm-hmm. They're the best team in the league. Okay. Gleyber Torres, who had played for the Yankees. I got him. That's what I got. But, yeah, right now you mentioned it. The Mets with the second most wins in the league, 39-23. And then not far behind them, as you just said, are the Philadelphia Phillies. And both teams are going to be hard to catch. So the Phillies 37-24 right now. Jen, the Cubs, 4.5 up, 38-23.
Yep, about the third best record like in the entire league. So
right.
they're just kind of kicking butt out there, and I'm just quietly enjoying it because I don't want to get too boastful because I don't want anything to break the trend.
I think the Cubs are truly amazing. I enjoy watching the Cubs.
Yeah.
I can pull for them. It feels like the Bears. I don't know if you two agree with it. It feels like the Bears are hard to pull for. The Cubs are very easy to pull for.
It depends on the team they have.
Okay.
I think that makes a difference, but I think we've got a pretty good roster, and I think it's a good group.
Yankees with 37 wins right now in the season. They're 5.5 up on the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays. Mentioned the Tigers 41-22. 6 up on the Twins. Houston Astros half game up on the Mariners. Houston 33-28. That's your American League standings. National League, we mentioned the Mets and the Phillies. Mets a game and a half up on the Phillies, 39-23 to 37-24. Cubs, as we just mentioned, 4.5 up on the Cardinals. And then out west, the Dodgers and the Padres are staging a nice little battle back and forth. Dodgers 37-25, Padres 35-25, and the Giants not far behind 34-28.
I heard you mention in the top of the league, but we'd be remiss if we did not mention the Colorado Rockies, who are on a heater.
Massive heater.
Big heater. 3 games in a row. For the first time in a year, they've swept a series against the lowly, are they the Florida or Miami Marlins? What are they?
Miami.
Yeah, the Miami Marlins, yeah. All 4,000 people witnessed their team get swept.
The Rockies just won a quarter of their games over the last 3 days. They've got 12 wins. They just won 3 in a row.
Let's go.
By the way, their run differential, minus 181.
That's what Alex is trying to say. He's like, look, we're not that.
By the way, the next closest team in negative run differential, the Athletics. Just the Athletics. Minus 128.
Yeah, we don't even know where they're playing.
No, nobody can answer that. So there is a little bit of chop talk. We'll come back. We'll get into a little bit of NASCAR talk with Josh Harris as he has made a run up our Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge. We'll get you set for Michigan this coming weekend on Prime, by the way. I need to get y'all's opinion, Jen, and get Josh's on these Prime broadcasts and how y'all feel about that. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And you always hear me say 30 years. Well, that's a long, long time. But Mid-State Roofing has done that and been the leader because of things like offering you 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week assistance. You heard that right, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 7:15 on a Thursday morning. And guess what? If you called Mid-State Roofing right now, you'd speak with an on-call technician. You call during hours, you'll speak with a Mid-State Roofing employee who is ready to help you with a maintenance contract. So give them a phone call today and discuss your options. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence or Myrtle Beach, Aiken or Augusta, Greenville or Charleston, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you. Whether it's your home or your business, Mid-State Roofing wants to make sure your operation stays dry and running long into the future. Give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
I-77 northbound at Bluff Road, an accident there. Also, I-20 westbound at Farrow Road, a little bit of a slowdown. And I-26 westbound at exit 102, vehicle on fire, so need to be mindful as you're trying to get through there. We are looking for rounds of rain throughout the day, not necessarily a washout, but just periods of rain are possible. 81, that'll be our high today. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. That will be our day of clarity. 93 or 92 is the high that we're looking for. Up to 93 on Saturday, but again, those chances for some pop-up afternoon and evening thunderstorms, and we'll see much of that again on Sunday as well. Right now, it is 72, scattered rain across the Midlands.
7:20 on your Thursday morning, rolling right along here, as you heard Jen say, maybe some rain in the forecast next few days, but that won't stop us from having a good time. And joined now, as he does each and every Thursday, by Mr. Josh Harris of Darlington Raceway, who, Mr. Harris, you have quietly, sneaky, climbed yourself back into our Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge race here.
Well, I had to lean on your favorite, Denny Hamlin, last week, and I was looking at the standings Jen sent. It's a tough week. 10th place gets 1 point in the standings, so we're doing good, picking some winners, and I got to give your boy Hamlin a little credit.
I appreciate that. I feel good about that. And yes, you're right. We all, the five of us, picked 5 out of the top 10 racers. Let's see. You had Denny Hamlin at 3rd. William Byron was 5th, and Reggie got 4 points. Jen had Kyle Larson at 8th place with 3 points. Preston had Tyler Reddick with 2 points, and I had Christopher Bell at 10th, who finished 10th, and I only got a point. So pretty solid. Let me ask you, I was bringing up, and I'll let you and Jen kind of debate this. So far, what have y'all thought about the Amazon broadcast here of the races? Your thoughts first, Josh.
Yeah, I've been really impressed so far. Two races in out of the 5, and I think when you look at it from start to finish, the pre-race coverage I think has been excellent. We're seeing some different faces on the broadcast that we haven't seen with Fox and NBC in the past. So I think that's a fresh perspective. I think in the booth, Dale Jr., Steve Letarte, Adam Alexander calling the race are doing great. And then the post-race coverage, I think that's one of the things our fans have really been asking for. And with a streaming service, you don't have some of the cutoff times that you have on cable and broadcast to get into the next program. So it's given them an opportunity to really highlight what happened in the race, give a great post-race program. And so from top to bottom, right out of the bat, I think they've done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I was a little bit concerned at first. I just, something new. But as far as the interactive graphics, I think a lot of that has been better. You get commercial breaks, but it's usually side by side with the racing, so I've enjoyed that as well. And like you said, the lineup, who they have on pit lane, Steve and Dale doing a great job, and of course Adam. I think it's been good. My only concern is, okay, if you're trying to get it in, like if you wanted to air it in a bar, obviously they've got to have access. When I was traveling for the Indy 500, we didn't have the proper setup with the TV in the hotel room, so I had to just watch it on my laptop. That wasn't so great. So a few things, I'm not as big of a fan on that, but aside from that, I think the broadcast has been really good.
Preston, and I'm not picking at you, for a person who probably, we know your unhappiness with streaming networks because you got to get it in the app, you got to get out of the app, you just can't flip the channel. Mm-hmm. How do you absorb, if you wanted to watch the race, having to go through Amazon?
Yeah, you're just gonna have to be trained to do it, and especially if they're putting out a better product, which it seems as if. And I asked Tyler about this because I had seen several tweets from folks saying, "Hey, like this Prime coverage is really good," and what Tyler said was that they treat it with respect and they honor the difficulty and skill of the racing, whereas maybe other networks don't necessarily do it. So it feels like it's the coverage for people who are actually into the race as opposed to maybe more so for casuals. So I would, if that's what you're into, it feels like you're going to find it because they are catering to people who are really into racing.
Josh, can you agree with that?
Well, I think it's certainly a different way to present the product. And anytime you've got a new broadcast partner that's coming in, they've got a fresh set of eyes. And you look at what Amazon Prime has done for even like the NFL broadcast, some of the technology. So I think there's some new things like that they've brought, but it is a good balance of some of those voices and faces that our fans have been accustomed to hearing in the past and are very popular. So it certainly helps. I think on the streaming side, the fact that it's streaming, I'm like a lot of you. I love the channel surf, so it does inhibit that a little bit, but it's part of, I guess, the changing landscape of watching sports as a whole. And for 5 races, I think, we've gotten great coverage just on Amazon as a whole as part of this. So in terms of growing the sport, getting new eyeballs on it, I think it's checking a lot of those boxes.
Agreed.
Let's look ahead to Michigan before we make our picks. Jen, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on last weekend in Nashville, but also now looking ahead to Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, I think the racing wasn't bad in Nashville. It wasn't super exciting. There are not a lot of passing opportunities there. So, but I don't think the racing was terrible. I mean, it was a pretty decent race. The lanes opened up. That made it a little bit better. But, you go to Michigan and you have, excuse me, Elliott, who's, he's won there. You've got Logano, who's won a couple races there. Larson, who's won a couple races. People who need to win. You've got Kyle Busch. I think maybe we could see a sleeper win in the race this week.
Josh, you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, you go to Michigan, it's a big 2-mile wide surface, so the racing here should be some of the best of the season. These cars love it when you can spread out and get that clean air, so to speak. And so I'm looking forward to it. I think Jen's hit a couple of names there that, could be some sleepers, and I think it's going to be one of the more wide open races of the year.
Yeah, and they're getting up over 200, in this race, so that makes it a little extra fun and racy.
So 2 o'clock on Sunday, and again, that'll be on Amazon Prime. Let's make our picks here in the Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge. Jen, you are up first. You are at 38 points. You are 4 behind Preston, and you are 18 behind Reggie, who leads the way.
As I say, there could be sleepers. I would love to see Kyle Busch get a win here, and I think he could run well. But right now, I need to go with maybe a favorite. I'm going to go with William Byron.
William Byron. All right. Nothing wrong with that pick. That brings us to Preston. Mr. Preston, who you got here is with your 42 points?
Give me Ryan Blaney, sir.
Ryan.
That was my second pick.
Blaney. All right.
He could go back to back.
That's good.
Josh, you have, I said it, you've quietly snuck up the standings. You've had a good run of races here. You've not won the race, but in the last 5, you've taken the top point total of 5. You've had another one with 4. It's been a very strong run for you. You are now just 1 point behind me and 4 behind Reggie. What direction do you go?
Well, I'm like Jen. I really want to go with one of these kind of sleeper picks, a guy like Brad Keselowski, but I'm gonna stay with a different Ford driver. I'm gonna go with Joey Logano.
Joey Logano. Okay. All right. I'm looking. So let's see. Blaney was plus 700. He is in the top 4 in terms of Vegas odds. I feel like it's a good week. I'm gonna take my guy. Y'all, he fell to me. Give me old Denny Hamlin. I like what we're saying. A little sneaky here. I think Jen, you kind of pointed out. I think he'll kind of stay to the back, stay out of races, stay out of wrecks for a large number of laps, and then make a move to the front. I'm going Denny Hamlin. And who does that bring us to with Reggie?
And that means Reggie would go with Kyle Larson. And I am incorrect. I meant to say that Chase Elliott. He runs well at Michigan. He has not won there yet, so I did misspeak on that one. And yeah, with you, Denny Hamlin, if he's still on baby watch, so if he doesn't run, Ryan Truex will run for him.
Okay, baby watch. I did not catch that. Real quick, did you switch your pick to Chase Elliott? Or?
No, I did not. I just was correcting myself that he hasn't won. He's run well there, but he's not actually won at Michigan.
Gotcha. All right. Mr. Josh, we always appreciate it. I know you got some stuff you got to do this morning, so I appreciate you joining us a little earlier than usual.
Thanks for having me on early, and looking forward to the Michigan race, and we'll talk next week.
We definitely will, buddy. Definitely will. Take care. Josh Harris, Darlington Raceway president. Next week, we'll catch up on more of what's going around in Darlington because we are 88 days away from the start of South Carolina football, 87 days. So that means we're 87 days away from being back in Darlington and being there.
500.
So 803-404-6100. We will come back and we'll get into a little South Carolina football. Oh boy, Nick Eamon-Morey is already drawing praise in Seattle. We'll discuss that. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Those hot summer days, they're just around the corner. Let me tell you, if your HVAC unit is not ready to handle it, now is the time. I don't know whether you need a brand new heating and air unit or whether you just need repairs, but guess what? AAA Heating and Air has you covered on both. Let's say you need a brand new heating and air unit. Well, AAA Heating and Air is the name to go to here in the Midlands. With guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty, they are the absolute best in the business. Maybe you just need some repairs, though. Well, guess what? AAA Heating and Air knows you're probably worried about cost. They've got you covered. 12-month payment plans, no credit checks for all repairs, and all you need to do is be a homeowner with a valid bank account. So give them a phone call, 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. Call AAA Heating and Air. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
I-26 eastbound, exit 129. The left lane is blocked due to an accident, so stay right. I-26 eastbound there at exit 129. South Lake Drive at I-20, also a report of a tie-up. And I-77 northbound at Bluff Road. We are going to see these rounds of showers today. It's not going to be a full washout, but off and on we will see shower activity. 81 will be our high. Tomorrow, no rain in the forecast. Sunny, 92 before we get some late afternoon and evening storm potential on Saturday, but your daytime high will be 93. Currently 72 and overcast on 107.5 The Game.
7:35 as we roll along here on your Thursday morning. Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner, as we have you up and going. Thank you again to Josh Harris. Little schedule change. Normally he comes on at 8:30, but this morning joining us at 7:15. So we've got our Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge picks in, where again Preston goes with Ryan Blaney. Reggie goes with Kyle Larson. I go with Denny Hamlin. Jen takes William Byron. And Josh goes with Joey Logano for Michigan this coming weekend. Make sure you catch that. That'll be, again, at 2 o'clock on Amazon Prime. I don't know. Preston, moving forward, I don't know how we're going to remember Nick Eamon-Morey. Like, he came out of nowhere. In recruiting, he came out of nowhere. And the opening game, I believe that was Georgia State. He didn't have the best sophomore year, but there's no question that he will go down as one of the top 5, and maybe I'm expanding it out too many when I say 5, top 5 safeties to ever play at the University of South Carolina.
5 is too many.
Is it? Yeah?
Yeah, 5 is too many. If you're going past 3,
okay,
it's probably too far. And if anybody would make the argument for number 1, and if Garrett Nussmeier doesn't lay on the ground,
that's a good point.
And like he was infirmed or something like that, then maybe he's number 1, because that seminal moment, that pick 6, if it would have counted, would have been massive.
Oh, you're right.
We all remember it. It doesn't count in the stat books. It counts in our hearts. But unfortunately, we can't quantify that. So yeah, I think if you're laying it out, here's my argument. Here's what I've said. I've told them we don't remember Nick because Nick doesn't have his own number.
That's a good point. That's actually a very legitimate point.
He wore 2 numbers.
Yeah.
But they both belong to other people.
Good point on that.
He wore number 21 to start his career. And who's number 21 for the...
Some dude named Lattimore who's doing poems now.
Yeah, some guy named Lattimore. Then he wore number 7. Well, who's number 7?
Yeah, some dude named Clowney.
Yeah. You got to get your own number, Nick.
It's a good point. Actually,
you got to get your own number, because if say we wanted to retire your number, the numbers are already taken. So I'm lightweight joking, but seriously, when you come out legacy, people associate players with numbers, and he doesn't have one. But aside from that, yeah, if you wanted to put him in the top 3, you're well within your rights.
You know, you bring up 2 interesting points. One is the numbers conversation. He should have worn 3,
whatever,
or 9,
anything.
Whatever. But I don't know how we necessarily remember DJ Swearinger if he doesn't hit Andre Ellington and flip him around. We remember him as a good football player, but that's his. You make a great point on a seminal moment, on a play that would have been remembered. That pick 6 to seal the game against LSU would have been Nick Eamon-Morey's moment. We would have ranked that up there with the Clowney hit, with the Swearinger hit to seal that game. That would have been. That's a great point on that, and that's why I say I'm interested to see as time moves on and we watch his NFL career, how we remember him here.
If you remember, I mean, obviously we all remember that, unfortunately, but it was a great moment because it was the classic, no, yes, right? He catches the ball in the end zone, very easily could have just taken a knee, but he doesn't. Takes it back 101 yards, and then everything that ensues after that. So, yes, that's a moment. Also, DJ had other moments, throwing the ball in the stands, things of that nature. So, yes, the moments are what makes the legend, and Nick has several. He has several. One of my favorite moments that everybody doesn't talk about, the pure, clean, crisp, open field tackle against Luther Burden on a second 11, which made it 3rd and 11. Which, when you're rewatching that game, it's pretty good. You know what's going to happen because they did throw a touchdown.
You rewind that one a little bit more and you break down the finer techniques.
But Nick is obviously going to he should be in the top whatever if you're having conversations about South Carolina safeties, especially when you take into account his story, him being local, all of those types of things. Obviously, there's the conversation about what happened with the bowl game. That has been soothed, I think. I'm not sure.
I think it has.
I'm not sure if that's something that really comes up in people's minds as much as it would have if those two parties didn't get together. And so, yeah, Nick is well on his way.
I'll tell you what, Jen. Let's start with this one. Let's make Preston happy. This is from yesterday. This is clip number 9. This is Nick Eamon-Morey with, as it listed on our cut sheet, the textbook tackle on Luther Burden.
What a play.
Good. He's locked in. You know, he's just going through the rookie process.
Stop. Hold up. Stop that one. Sorry. Let's go with number 9 first. From yesterday, number 9, and then we'll come back to that one you were just playing. But let's make Preston happy. This is the Eamon Worry textbook tackle on Luther Burden.
Play for the last 4 or 5 snaps. Cook able to find Burden, who gets struck by the first man
of the night here, bringing down Luther Burden in space to force this third down.
This makes you happy,
third down.
Play.
Well, we say all this because already at Seattle Seahawk minicamp, Nick Eamon Worry is making waves. This is defensive coordinator Aiden, is it Darude?
Well, I'm listening to his accent, and I feel like there might be some accent marks on this.
Okay, but here is the Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator talking about the progress of Nick Eamon Worry already through minicamp.
Good. He's locked in. You know, he's just going through the rookie process. He's playing a couple of different positions at times, but he puts the work in, locked in, works really well with Jeff Howard, and he made a couple of plays last week. It was cool to see.
Yes, I believe the Seattle Seahawks, if you're wondering, did hire an Australian rugby coach to come over and play defensive coordinator.
Now.
But we shouldn't be surprised by this, right?
No, you shouldn't.
We thought he would be a first-round pick. He fell out of the first round, but we shouldn't be surprised by this.
You should not be surprised. He was obviously a first-round talent by all the physical metrics. Then to put the play on the field, the Seattle Seahawks were able to get him at 35, I believe, which was right outside of the first round, which much to the chagrin of Nick's wallet.
Yeah.
Remember, if he would have gotten picked in the first round, he essentially lost about 3.5 just for being 3 picks later. So instead of being picked 32, he was 35, and that's a significant amount of money. Nick is going to be fine. Don't cry for him. He'll be okay. But they got who they wanted at the top of that draft.
803-404-6100. It's good to see him succeeding, and I'm with you. I think the more time continues to pass and we move further away from that bowl game and we create new memories of whatever 2025 is going to be, Nick Eamon Worry will be a guy that we forget about that unfortunate situation in the bowl game, but we remember very fondly as one of the best safeties to ever come through. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. Preston's got more questions for you, but he's also got – are you admitting something? Is that what this is?
I don't know. I feel like we might need to turn this into a segment because I have questions.
Okay, there you go. Well, we will get into it when we come back. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Thursday morning edition of the Early Game.
Hey, Columbia, it's Preston for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been family-owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. And Ben is determined to raise the standard of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they are proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. So whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has you covered. We've got a huge selection of new and pre-owned mowers, powerful tractors, and all the gear you need to tackle your next outdoor project. So call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
7:49 as we get up and get you going here. A couple people texting in. DJ also had the 3 15-yard penalties and scored a touchdown while doing it.
Iconic.
Another texter says, am I the only one upset with Kennard for even touching the quarterback on the LSU? Says he was completely out of the play and he knew what he was doing.
That's a bold take, but you're not wrong.
Another texter, Brad weighs in. I consider Nick one of the great Gamecock safeties and hope he becomes an NFL Hall of Famer. He will never be one of my all-time favorite Gamecocks because of what he did in the bowl game.
Fair.
Chris, a Miami guy, I believe this is one of our Miami guys, says, I would argue South Florida dog, Emmanuel Cook, is the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to safety.
E-Cook was great. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite safety tandems. E-Cook and Darian Stewart were amazing. I love watching those two play together. I think E-Cook he's OLI. He's just right outside of that top list for me.
803-404-6100. Continue to send in those text messages. Anything you hear this morning. Preston, you've got questions.
Well, here's the thing. Some of you, if you listen to this show, I'm glad you listen. I'm glad you listen to us run our mouths, and we blab a lot about different topics. And sometimes we glance into things that we have nothing about. And the promo clip that we have says, here comes the stupidity. And you may not know the history behind that. The history behind that was we were having a conversation about the WNBA and how legitimate fans of the WNBA have always preached how good the game was, how awesome it was, how people should get more involved. And when you get more people involved, you bring more stupid opinions.
Yes,
because
very true.
The people that are coming don't know anything about your game. They don't know anything about your players. They're just coming firing off hot takes. So
just because that's what we do.
If you want more people, you're going to have more stupid opinions. And much like many things on the early games, we were right. Have you been following the WNBA discourse this year? The stupidity is rolling strong, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the more people that are involved, it's more stupidity to follow. A lot less talk about what's actually happening on the court and everything surrounded. So that's what you get. And I wonder if we can make this into a segment, because here comes the stupidity. Preston was watching college softball, a sport that I know nothing about. I watch it every year when the tournament comes around.
Me
this
too.
year, I've been more interested because we obviously had a vested interest in seeing how our team was involved in it, and hopefully that's going to be more so to the future. So I'm watching the game. I'm checking it out, channel surfing, watching it on the TV, watching it through Twitter, kind of keeping around. And then, Jen, can we get clip number 6, please?
3 home runs here at the series.
That was Reese Atwood of Texas. She's the catcher. She's one of the best hitters in the country. She's hit, I think, 398, 28 home runs. She is amazing. But if you listen to the woman speaking, she said, what, Bill? That was her first hit of the World Series. Why is that important? Because the coach from Texas Tech decided to take his $1 million pitcher and attempt to intentionally walk Reese Atwood. Yes, there was a base open. But to this point, Najiri Candidate, who was the pitcher for Texas Tech, $1 million pitcher, has pitched every inning of the College World Series to this point, has led them to this point. The coach decided that in that moment, he wanted to execute an intentional walk. The problem is that in softball, they don't do intentional walks the way they do in Major League Baseball. So they don't do just you got to hold 4 out and you just take your base. In softball, you still have to throw the pitch. Yeah. And here's what Najiri Candidate said about this.
Take us through the challenge of trying to execute that play in this type of setting.
Yeah, there's no challenge. I made that mistake. I think that loss is on me, and I apologize to my team.
Good job taking accountability, Najiri. You're worth $1 million. You need to do that.
Yeah.
That being said, Coach, what are you doing? Why would you not give your best player an attempt to make a pitch against the other team's best player? Why would you do that? He's a first-year head coach too, Bill.
Ooh.
I'm getting deeper in the weeds here.
Yeah.
Did the first-year coach make a mistake? Did he get a little bit of a case of the lemon booty? Did he try to big brain this thing? Why wouldn't you just let your pitcher pitch?
Yeah. She's been successful. She's been very successful. Why challenge her by asking her to try to walk somebody? Yeah.
You're asking her to, hey, for the next 4 pitches, I want you to throw bad pitches.
That's not. She's $1 million that she isn't throwing bad pitches.
She looks up, she throws a pitch that is in the strike zone, and Reese Atwood got a hit. And so, Bill, here comes the stupidity. I'm questioning coaches. Does that first-year coach, does he need to go back to work?
I put this on the you're $1 million pitcher. You gotta get the intentional walk here. 2 outs, runners at second and third.
Ratchet up the stupidity a little bit more.
You gotta get this is on the pitcher. Come on, just throw the ball out of the strike zone. The girl no. I blame the pitcher. The analytics say get the walk.
Hey, listen. Here comes the stupidity.
Hour 3
We're
on
here.
the way. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. We're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are there to keep your operation dry and running long into the future. You heard that right. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You give Mid-State Roofing a phone call. Doesn't matter if it's your home or your business. Doesn't matter if you're here in Columbia or maybe if you're in Charleston or Greenville, Florence or Greenwood, Aiken or Augusta, wherever you're at, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you with your roofing needs. That's why they've been in business for over 30 years, being the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. So give them a phone call today and line up a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Again, it's 803-356-1919. You can also visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You give them a phone call, you're going to speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. Again, that phone number to call, 803-356-1919. So if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
I-26 eastbound at exit 129. The left lane is blocked, so stay right if you're approaching exit 129 there on I-26 eastbound. South Lake Drive at I-20, an accident, and Broad River Road near Seminole Road. You'll also encounter a slowdown. Rounds of rain today, not going to be a complete washout, but you're just going to see them pop up here and there. 81 is the high we'll have. Tomorrow, no rain, just sunny, 92. And should be pretty nice for part of Saturday before the afternoon or evening. Thunderstorms pop up and looking for a high of 93. Kind of similar for Sunday, high of 89. Right now, We are looking at overcast conditions, and it's 90. It's not 92 yet. How about 72 right now in the early game?
$8 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Hope you're doing well. You heard Jen giving the weather report there. Sounds like it's going to be a kind of rainy day out there, but we'll get you to the weekend, get you set up for a nice weekend with some super regional baseball. Preston Thorne, NBA finals start tonight. NHL finals got going last night. And if you want to get into it, the softball College World Series, to which, Preston, you have questions. You had questions. Was it, who is the blame on?
Let's get the hot takes off, whether you watched it or not. Whether you watched it or not, and whether you know anything about softball or not, you have $1 million pitcher with 2 outs. Do you let that pitcher pitch and do what they've been doing for you all year? Or do you put, admittedly, one of the best hitters in the country, do you put them on base and an intentional walk? Texas Tech first-year head coach decided to do the latter. He put Reese Atwood. He was trying to put Reese Atwood on base. Nigeria candidate makes a mistake.
Big mistake.
Big mistake. And essentially blows the game. Whose fault is it? Pitcher? Coach?
Pitcher. Pitcher all the way. Yeah, you got to. If you are trying to, and if you haven't seen the clip, the catcher is not crouched. I wouldn't say fully standing. It's kind of, but you can tell they're trying to put the runner on base to load the bases. Got to be clear, there was second and third base. There was 2 outs. Texas Tech was up 1-0. So they're trying to load the bases so that you have a force out at any base. Then that way, if you get her out, or if you get a ground ball, you can go to any base and get her out. Reese Atwood on the season, batting .398 with 21 home runs.
She's good. Obviously, one of the best.
Jerry Glasgow, the coach for Texas Tech, saying, I didn't want to pitch to maybe the best hitter in the country. You have to give her credit. She wanted to play ball. She wanted to make a play, and she made a difference.
She made a heck of a play. In the first 3 pitches were kind of close, but you could tell they were intentionally walking her. She goes up. She stays focused. She gets one that she can hit, and she made a play. And I position that as a coach, why would you take the play out of your best pitchers, your best players' hands?
Well, you didn't take the play out of her hands. I mean, if you can't throw it,
she can. She's doing it all game.
You got to be able to throw a. I mean, look, all she's got to do is put the ball outside of the zone. That's all you got to do.
But she's been asked to put the ball inside the zone the whole game. And she's been doing it. She's been mowing them down. It's 1-0.
Mental toughness.
Not a pitch.
Mental toughness. Got to.
Has nothing to do with mental toughness.
Here comes the stupidity.
Mental toughness. You got to be able to throw the ball outside of the. Imagine saying this sentence several times, which I have. You got to be able to throw the ball outside of the strike zone. Not in the strike zone. Outside.
I don't know, man.
By the way, it wasn't. If you go back and watch, this wasn't like a bloop hit.
No,
this is a roped ball between second and third. Between the shortstop and the third base player. This ball is smashed into left field.
All I want to position is that to that point, Reese Atwood was 0 for 10.
Longest hitting drought of the season.
So
she was due. So you're trying to put it outside of the zone.
That's the answer. Yeah, she was due. Yeah,
but again, why is he if you trust your pitcher, let her strike the girl out. Let her do what she's been excelling at the whole game.
But she's got a better odds of striking out the next batter who's not as good. You're talking about Reese Atwood is one of the. Boy, I did not position myself for this conversation this morning. You go after a weaker hitter with the best with
Correct.
$1 million pitcher. I guess maybe one of the best in the country.
No, not maybe.
Is she?
Yes, she is. But here's the caveat. And this is why you need to tune into the game on Friday night. Texas's pitcher, Tegan Caven, 4-0 against Nigeria.
Oh, my.
So she might be the Nigeria stopper. So this is where it doesn't get real interesting. So this is why you might want to tune in on Friday. I position that the coach made a mistake. Don't take the ball out of your best player's hands.
I go with the analytics on this. Get the A, you would load the bases, force out at any base. B, you take the best hitter. They're saying, again, this is where I wasn't prepared. I can't tell you who's the best hitter in
She's one of the best.
softball, but she's considered one of the best hitters in all of softball and college softball. You're taking the odds of her getting a hit out. I would be. You just said it. They've played 4 times. Three times.
She's beaten Nigeria 4 times, and over
the pitcher has the pitcher for
the pitcher.
But I wonder, without looking, what the batting average is of Atwood, Reese Atwood, the young lady who got the hit. What is her batting average, or how is her numbers against Nigeria this year? Like, was she obviously she's not gotten a hit. She had not gotten a hit yesterday, but
she was 0 for 10.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, your odds are pretty good that you could take her without having to do the.
Well, no, she's not 0 for 10 against Nigeria. Is she? Was she?
I'm saying in the world right now, she's 0 for 10.
She was due. She was really due for a hit. You're talking about one of the best hitters that's due, and it's a clutch situation.
Come on, man. $1 million. Hey, listen.
Exactly. It's $1 million pitcher.
You get that Lamborghini out on the highway, you let it ride. And you say, listen, you can't beat my stud against your stud. We'll see what's up.
I'm gonna take the next girl. I don't know what the next girl bats.
First year coach, man. Made a mistake.
3-0 was the count, by the way. 3-0 is the count. So well, anyway, that was last night. All part of it. And yes, again, I apologize for not knowing who the best hitter in women's softball and college softball is. I apologize for not knowing what the stats were of Reese Atwood against Nigeria. I apologize for not knowing that they played 4 times. This was their 4th meeting.
Here comes the stupidity.
803-404-6100. This on the pitcher or the coach?
Just saying.
Let's go. All right, let's get to a couple things here real quick. Text weighs in. Sorry, Preston. Definitely the pitcher's fault. $1 million pitcher should be able to place it where she wants. Another texter weighs in. Catcher was setting up in the strike zone. Oh, we got a third. We got a third person at fault. Catcher was setting up in the strike zone. It's her fault.
Ooh. Okay.
Another texter weighs in and says, just screw the analytics, Bill. No analytics. Just go straight after. I do feel a little Mark Kingston-ish.
I was going to say, and how did that work out for Mark Kingston with all the analytics?
I do feel a little Mark Kingston-ish giving y'all analytics on this. Let's go to the phone line. Seth wants to weigh in. Seth, what you got for us this morning?
First off, former neighbor, hey, Bill, how you doing? But I want to also say the inning is either inning or 2 before that when Texas got the interference call at second base. Their best hitter came up, and they had first base open, and they didn't walk the batter. And she got the bloop single in the center field that gave up the run that Texas Tech got. So I think that influenced the Texas Tech coach to not make the same mistake the Texas coach did the inning before.
Okay. All right. How do you feel about that?
Listen, man. $1 million. She's pitched every pitch in the College World Series and had not given up a run to that point. Roll with the big dog. Players make plays.
I agree. $1 million pitcher. She's got to make the pitch. Not in the strike zone. And again, it looks a little worse when you actually watch the replay where it's really not like she barrels up the ball, the softball.
Yeah, for sure.
She doesn't. It's not like a little bloop hit like she reached out and got it. This was a bad play by the pitcher. Feel bad for the coach. Feel bad for the
Don't
coach.
feel bad for him. He's rode this train all the way to the World Series, a place where Texas Tech has never been before, and where we'll see Friday night there will be rematch.
So we have had
That's the cool thing about softball. These pitchers will face each other again.
Yeah,
we'll see.
So we will keep you informed of how that goes down on Monday and come back and maybe they come back and win the series this weekend. But if they don't, boy, will the early game have complete coverage of Texas Tech, Texas.
Also, Nigeria hit into a double play, so she had a rough game for
bad game for her.
Rough game for her.
Texas weighs in. Can it just be a great play by the hitter? No, it can't. You throw a great hit, but if you're not supposed to throw a strike and you leave one in the zone, and it costs you the game, we got someone we got to blame.
Yeah, you're not
blame. We're not giving him credit. There's no credit here. There's no praise. There's no praise.
The name of this segment is called Here Comes the Stupidity. you missed the point.
803-404-6100. Again, NBA tonight, Pacers and Thunder. Pacers enter this thing as a huge, huge underdog. We'll talk about that. Little playoff review when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. Listen, Father's Day coming up here in about a week and a half, and guess what, guys? There's nothing you need more than a great Traeger grill. That's right. At Old Timey Meat Market, the Lexington location is your Traeger headquarters, and they have great deals going on right now for Father's Day. Now, you always hear me talk about Old Timey Meat Market and the great steaks, the phenomenal Italian chicken skewers, the phenomenal salmon that my daughter likes to get, but they also have some incredible grills and smokers. Go visit the Lexington location. Again, that is your Traeger headquarters. Now, of course, if you're looking for a great dinner, you can go to South Congaree, the Old Timey Meat Market store there, or you can go to St. Andrews Road in Irmo. But let me tell you again, Father's Day is coming up. There's nothing better than cooking or smoking food on a Traeger grill or a Traeger smoker. Go visit the Lexington location where they have some incredible deals going on right now. Stop by Old Timey Meat Market today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
I-20 westbound at Faro Road, a report of an accident there. Also, South Lake Drive at I-20, still working that earlier tie-up. Broad River Road near Seminole Road, that also is an accident in progress. Earlier tie-ups have been cleared. Great news in that respect, and we could see pop-up showers throughout the day. It's not going to be continuous, just off and on. 81 is the high we're looking for. Tomorrow, the rain is out, and the sunshine is in. 92 will be our high before we get back into a pattern of afternoon or evening storms possible throughout Saturday and Sunday. High Saturday, 93, 89 on Sunday, but a little bit overcast right now. Rain scattered here and there, 73 on 107.5 The Game.
It's softball mayhem. Should have you walked? Maybe the best hitter. I'm going to just go ahead and say it. The best hitter in the country. Maybe one of the best college softball hitters of all time, Reese Atwood. Or should have you gone after her? And
but here's yes, but you position it that way. But do you go after her with the best pitcher in the country? Because I think that's you have to put that detail. We're not just throwing some ragtag up here. The best pitcher in the country going against one of the best hitters. So let's make it even.
I beg to differ on that because didn't you say she's lost now to Texas Tech? Texas four times?
No. I said she lost to that pitcher. Now this is transfer portal, so she has played her at several stops. So this pitcher owns her.
That's the best pitcher in the country. I'm with you. Got it.
Tegan is good. Yeah. She's very good. She's led Texas. She only gave up one run to Texas Tech. She's got them to this point. Tegan's very good. And I would expect if Texas was pitching their best pitcher that they would let her throw too.
Not to the best hitter. And this is where you got to really be able to analyze, visualize, walk, throw off a ball, a 3-0 count. You've thrown 3 of them already. Yeah, you got to be able to do that. 803-404-6100. Let's go to the phone lines. Drew wants to weigh in. How you doing this morning, Drew? What do you think about our softball conversation?
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Bill, I kind of agree with you. I feel like, baseball, softball is very situational. It's like, let's walk her to load the bases. We got to force out at every base. And, she's one of the best hitters. But I agree, Preston, you've got one of the best pitchers. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, hey, the coach made the call. Now the players have to execute, and they couldn't do it. And I'm sure they've never practiced an intentional walk before. So I'd love to see softball just, be like baseball and just go ahead and put them on, not make them go through the process. But, before Major League Baseball, you had to throw the pitches, and we've seen it before. People have thrown it, and somebody stuck the bat out there and hit one before. So.
Yeah, they were.
Also, I wanted to say, Preston, the game is actually tonight, not tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate that correction. Yes, the game is tonight, so that's even more reason for everybody to tune in tonight to see what happens in this game tonight. Yes, appreciate that.
Yeah,
Drew.
8 o'clock tonight.
8 o'clock tonight. Yeah, I had read that wrong. Appreciate that, Drew.
Let's stay on the phone lines. Jay wants to weigh in this morning. Jay, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey, buddy, doing great. 2 things. This is why I love seeing pitchers throw the ball, because with a runner on third base, there are a lot of different ways you can score from third base. Now, granted, 2 outs, those ways go way down, but we've seen it in the past where a pitcher throws the ball in the dirt, catcher mishandles the ball, the pitcher's got to make that pitch. The catcher stands up, they throw the ball outside the strike zone outside. And we've seen it in the past, like you just said, where that happens, where the pitcher messes up, throws one inside, and then the hitter hits the ball. But, Preston, here comes the stupidity. I'm going to give you another one to think about. The defense is not ready because they're expecting an intentional walk. If the shortstop had been down ready to play that ball on a normal play, does she make that play? Now, granted, it was a hard-hit ball, but I think she makes that play if she's ready.
That's what I'm talking about.
Very good.
That's what I'm talking about. Great A+ call right there. Drew, great job. Jay, great job. You all right? And you let it in when here comes the stupidity because, again, I don't know. But I'm here for it.
So is it actually the shortstop and third baseman?
We have a couple culprits.
Yeah.
Was it the catcher's fault? Was it the shortstop's fault? Was it the pitcher's fault? Opposition, it was the coach's fault.
Coaches playing the analytics, playing the rules. Somebody weighed in and said, would you walk Aaron Judge in that situation, basically? Second and third, 2 outs, chance to win the game? No. Yeah, you do. You don't let Aaron Judge beat you.
Not if I have one of my best pitchers throwing. I think we keep missing that out. I am for the player. You dance with the one that came with, and that's what I would say. Don't analytic this thing. Don't big brain this thing.
Hey, you didn't take her. They didn't take her out of the game. They just asked her to not throw a strike 4 times. She was able to do it the first 3.
She did it 3 times. She actually did it 4 times because I'm not sure that last pitch was a strike. It wasn't necessarily.
No, it was high. You're right.
Reese just made a play, but don't give her that opportunity. Go after her.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on that. NBA playoffs tonight, Preston Thorne, your Pacers.
My guys.
Tyrese Haliburton becoming one of the fastest rising villains in all of the NBA. Take on an Oklahoma City team who can cement one of the best seasons in NBA history, 68-14, by winning an NBA championship.
Yeah, I was going to give a take on this, but Jen, I sent the clip to the group earlier, and this is Amin Al-Hassan, NBA expert, talking about this series, and he does probably a way better job than I can do in explaining this series. So if you don't understand what is happening between the Pacers and the Thunder in this particular series, Amin Al-Hassan does a better job of this. Can we get the clip with Amin Al-Hassan talking about the basketball clip? So what he's going to position is how these two teams are matched up. The two teams, which you probably know nothing about, they're from middle-of-nowhere teams, not major cities. The NBA would have loved for it to have been teams that were either in these big places like New York or Boston or L.A. or things like that. Not the case. You got Indiana and Oklahoma City. By the way, Indiana was deplaned and their route was thrown off yesterday because there was a tornado, as there's usually happens in the Midwest at this point in time. And so when he's talking about these series, you have these players that are matched up. And what you essentially have is the Spider-Man meme.
Okay.
The Spider-Man meme is happening with this tournament. And so this is Amin Al-Hassan, again, NBA expert, doing a much better job than I can talking about this particular series.
Is literally, it's just that Oklahoma City is literally the same thing, but way better. Indiana says, we've got a center who blocks shots at the rim, and also he shoots threes. And Oklahoma City says, ours does too. He also leads the league in rim percentage defense, and also he can bring the ball up and make plays. Oh, okay. Well, guess what? We have a defensive pest of a perimeter player who can guard guys bigger than him, and Andrew Nembhard. And the Thunder say, yeah, we got one too. His name's Lou Dort. He's all defensive team. Oh, okay. Well, we got a point guard from the future. He controls everything. He's brilliant. He's dynamic. He's got all these moments. And the Thunder said, cool. Yeah, ours was MVP of the league. Oh, okay, well, let's talk about benches. We got a white guy who comes off the bench, who's scrappy, who gets into defensively and hits big shots in TJ McConnell. And the Thunder say, cool, we've got NBA champion Alex Caruso. Every level that the Indiana Pacers bring, the Thunder have the same thing. It's just a little bit better than what they have.
It's a good breakdown. Good analysis.
That's what we're facing. That's what we will slay these giants. You heard him, Hassan. You heard him say that everything that we have, they have a little bit more, and that's probably actually correct. And that's why I think it's going to be a very competitive series. I think eventually Oklahoma City's talent depth will override the Pacers, but these two teams are sort of built in the same image. And they're a little bit different than what the NBA used to be, and I say used to, not very long ago, where you just had 3 guys, the big 3, and you put a bunch of no-names around them. Now you get one guy and a no-names around him, but you have a bunch of them, and they come in waves, and they can hit shots, and they do a lot of things. So this series has the potential to be a lot of fun. I'm not sure how long it lasts, but these are two teams that are built in the new modern blueprint for how NBA teams win now.
I'm with you. I really think Oklahoma City rolls here. I think they're wildly underrated, which is crazy for a 68-14 team. I think that because they're a small market team, we don't pay enough attention to. Did not pay enough attention to them. I don't think you pay enough attention to their storyline of the fact that they essentially tanked, but did it in all of the right way to grab draft picks. They made some trades to continue to pick up draft picks. And so it's really actually a good story. The Pacers are too, by the way. But, yeah, Oklahoma City, the way he breaks it down. Now, tonight, 9.5-point favorite is what Oklahoma City is favored over Indiana. So it's a big spread tonight. And I think the Pacers going as one of the, in the last 20 years, one of the biggest underdogs, if not the biggest underdog. I don't know what it will close at tonight with the series numbers that the NBA has seen.
Also, Oklahoma City has the guy with the best nickname, Lou Dort.
Yeah.
The defensive stopper. You know what they say? They put you in the torture chamber.
Okay. Had not heard that.
That is a great nickname.
Okay. All right. So
Lou Dort, defensive stopper. Welcome to the torture chamber. That's fire.
The torture chamber.
That's fire. That's a fire nickname.
Game 1 tonight. Game 2 on Sunday coming up. That'll be at 8 o'clock as well. Game 3 will be next week on the 11th. That'll be on Wednesday. So they've got this thing spread out a little bit,
Yeah,
Preston.
and I don't know why the NBA does this, man. We've been used to back-to-backs, and now you're going to spread it out over 3 days. It's ridiculous.
You know, that's what I can't stand about the NBA because I feel like the playoffs have been going on since, like, Valentine's Day.
Mid-April.
They have.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
I'm over it.
It's the second season. It's fair.
I mean, I love the Pacers, so I'm hoping for them and cheering for them. I'm still not going to sit and watch all the games. Just the NBA's got just had issues. But doggone, it takes forever to get the season done.
Well, that's kind of been the point, but especially when LeBron kept playing in championship after championship, was the amount of wear and tear that he was having on his body and really not getting as much rest, because then I think he'd go play in the Olympics, or like he was playing basketball year round. And it's actually another reason that you have to kind of admire LeBron and what he actually does. He might flop, he might be very corny, but all the seasons that he played basically from October through to about the middle of June.
At least 8 years in a row, I know he was in the finals.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
and obviously, like you said, that's a long season of wear and tear.
So 803-404-6100. Come back, get into a few other topics here this morning as we roll along, including, you want to stay with your Chipper Jones, a hero of yours?
I mean, my guy is he's still very active on the tweets, so I don't know. But I don't know if we want to do more Here Comes the Stupidity. I'm not sure what's happening. We'll see what happens.
We will cover a lot of topics. You listen to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
Press here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, it's no problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, or they work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work. It does not matter. Absolute Glass will help you with it. Now, if you're at home, looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors. And Absolute Glass will do that also. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Gardner's Ferry Road near Halbrook Drive, have a report of an accident there. Also, Broad River Road near Seminole Road. So be mindful in that area as well. And that rain, again, it's going to be off and on today. And then we're looking for a high of about 81. It will be warmer tomorrow when the rain clears. Be sunny and 92 for tomorrow. 93 on Saturday. Should be a nice day, at least to start. But then later in the afternoon and the evening, you know the drill. Could see some thunderstorms coming in. And on Sunday, could just have scattered storms. And on Sunday, scattered storms and a high of 89. Right now, 73 on the early game.
Oh, the debate rages on here in the studio. During the break, Jen and Preston were trying to gang up on me, coming up with more reasons why it is the Texas Tech softball coach's fault for allowing one of the best pitchers in the country, one of the best, to go against maybe the best college softball hitter of all time and intentionally Walker to load the bases with 2 outs, down a run, or Texas Tech was up a run. They were up 1-0.
Correct. She had pitched a shutout to that point. Yes. Yes, she had.
But she had just given up 2 hits.
This is true.
She had just given up 2 hits. It was very clear that she was wearing out.
Yep.
It's coming from somebody who did not watch a second of this. So anyway, this is where the stupidity comes from. She was clearly wearing out, and probably, and I would say from what I understand, statistical odds of getting the next batter out much, much, much higher.
Those sound like great analytics. I like those analytics. Much, much, much higher. That's how you propose analytics. I like it.
That is the stupidity. Now, you in the break came up with another reason, though, that the coach should have let Najiri, is it Najiri?
I think it's Najiri.
Kennedy.
Najiri Kennedy. So we can't forget that, oh, by the way, Texas Tech got here by defeating 4-time champion Oklahoma. And you know who was pitching for that whole time? It was Najiri.
Yeah.
She was good enough to get them there.
Mm-hmm. Knock off 4-time defending champion.
That's all I'm saying.
Everybody knew that Oklahoma run was pretty much coming to a closure. Yeah,
okay.
I mean that was clear. It was very obvious, and so a little bit easier. But that's what. And as you said, and both of y'all were talking about, Jen. You were talking about, I think, a little disappointed in the start time of 8:00. But both of y'all are actually very. You got the NBA Finals tonight, and you got the college softball, and it sounds like Television One for both of y'all will be on Texas Tech, Texas for the softball championship.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely more. There's more urgency to this one. It's an elimination game, so there's that, and also softball is just a lot faster.
Yeah,
and it's a lot more entertaining, especially early in the games. So yes, TV One will be on softball tonight.
So it'll be, again, if Texas wins, they win the Women's College World Series. If Texas Tech wins, they force a Game 3 on Friday night that you can check out. And again, it really, I saw something from John Whittle on the BigSpur.com the other day, and it was talking about kind of, especially for us, because of what Ashley Chastain Woodard has done, the potential rise of softball in our media market. And one of the things he talked about was the crowds and the way the fans came out for the regionals and the super regionals. They were going out all year, but really buying into this particular South Carolina softball team and getting behind them and raising, I don't know if I want to say awareness, but enthusiasm more so for South Carolina softball.
Well, everyone loves a winner. Everybody loves a team that's building. There's a newness, there's a freshness to us, and this even circles back to our conversation about coaches getting fired. Bev Smith was here. She was serviceable, but she got fired.
Right.
She got fired because she was not competing in the SEC. However, there were many people saying, how could you fire her? That she had just taken their team to the postseason. So she got fired after being in the postseason. But that wasn't where the team wanted to go. And if you stay with that coach, yes, you may go back to the postseason, but history had already shown us that there was a limit to where that particular coach could take this team. Was it serviceable? Yes. Was it okay? Fine. But if you were trying to go to the next level, you had to make a hire. And they made a hire, and this one worked. It doesn't always work, but this one worked. And so that circles back to our conversation about when do coaches get fired or why do coaches get fired. I'm sure there are many people, especially maybe alum or softball enthusiasts, who would say, what are we doing? We just went to the postseason. Why would we fire Bev Smith? And then on the other side, you say, man, maybe that's why, because there was a limit or a ceiling that they were able to break through.
So earlier in the program, one of the things we discussed was this firing of coaches. This is out on the heels of Tom Thibodeau leading the New York Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals and yet not retaining his job. But Preston asked earlier, of the last three major firings for South Carolina, Mark Kingston, Will Muschamp, and Frank Martin, who do you think would have deserved another year? Who do you think should have maybe had one more year? You say, let's run it back and let's see what happens. I went with Frank Martin. A couple of you have weighed in with Mark Kingston because of kind of what Preston just said for Bev Smith. Mark Kingston was coming off of a super regional 2 years ago. I guess now it's 2 years ago, but so that would have been 3 years ago. 2 years ago, last year, I don't know how I'm supposed to word it now that the season is over, but Mark Kingston got him to a regional. But they also didn't have a particularly good 2024 campaign under Mark Kingston. It wasn't up to the South Carolina standards, and he was let go. Frank Martin, we all know the story there. A lot of things happened, I think, that, and some of it's Frank's fault, there's no doubt, but it felt like the team he had coming back for what, again, I will say was probably his last year, good or bad. If he didn't make the NCAA tournament with the team he had coming back with Devin Carter and G.G. Jackson or Jermaine Cousinard, Keyshawn Bryant was going to be a part of that team. If he didn't make the NCAA tournament, that was probably at that point a truly fireable offense. If he did make it, I contend he probably would have taken another job and gotten out of here. That relationship had just kind of run its course.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, by the way, Will Muschamp real quick, which...
Has anybody voted for Will Muschamp given another year?
No.
Yeah, and I would have expected that he was just kind of a non-entity on that.
Yeah.
It's time for him to take his smoking hot wife and go.
Yeah, that was the thing he did say. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to go back to this because I just wanted to find the numbers just to position the argument. Bev Smith was 461 and 323 overall in her career.
Okay.
That's very good winning percentage.
Not bad.
Way over 500. However, she was 102 and 219 in SEC play. And that's the rub.
So basically, she had the Mark Stoops way of Kentucky football and getting to a bowl game down pat.
Or you might argue maybe she had the Paul Maneri way. Maybe she beat all the quad 3 and quad 4 opponents. Maybe she was good against them, but against the teams where it mattered, she wasn't able to perform, or the program wasn't able to get to that level. And so when she was fired, she was 8-16 in the conference that year, and they lost in the regional. Administration made a move. A lot of people might have said, hey, I don't know if we even knew. And so, yes, every coaching firing has several circumstances around it, but you have to decide what is the goal for this program, what is the goal for this particular sport, and is this coach helping us reach that goal? And it's very curious to me where are we positioning Mark Kingston, because I was doing this show last year.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we're positioning Mark Kingston as somebody who deserved another year because of the year that we just had.
Well, that's what makes kind of like it's easy to play revisionist history and be like, well, we should have kept Frank Martin for one more year because look at the first year that Lamont Paris had. Or, thankfully Shane Beamer was able to turn it around in year one, and we didn't go, boy, you should have done this, you should have done that. Now we go into year 5, and he's perfectly stable and is in as good a place as any coach has ever been at the University of South Carolina after 4 years. So it's very easy, I think, to look back on the Mark Kingston era and look at this year in particular, and be like, well, should have probably kept him one more year. There was a disconnect between he and the fan base. And you talked about there was maybe a disconnect between he and the expectations of the fan base. And so I don't know if you can make the argument or the case that, yeah, he should have gotten one more year. Frank Martin, I feel like I can still make that case. Will Muschamp, I remember back then a lot of people were like, you don't fire a coach during COVID, and we don't have the money to pay him out. Well, they came up with the money to pay him out. They were able to fire him, not just after the season, but during the season. It had gotten to that point.
I sort of have memory hold that whole situation. Yeah, they did, huh? I forgot they showed up, and there was no thank you letter. They moved their offices in the dark. There was rumors of
he came back and his key card didn't work like on Monday.
Yeah. So yes, I did. I kind of memory hold that situation and forgot about that. And so yes, this is why the administration gets paid to make the money that they make. Obviously, we've been having conversation about baseball this year about what was going to happen. We just had the worst season in modern history as far as Gamecock baseball. However, Paul Maneri said he's coming back, which also Tom Tibbs said he was coming back.
He did. He talked about the Eastern Conference. He talked about what was up next on the docket.
About all the stuff he was going to do next year, and the president and the GM were like, I don't think so. And so it's different in this situation.
You feel like was it the GM maybe was like, let me go talk to him. The president like, nah, just let him go. We'll get to him.
It might have. And so in this situation, Jeremiah Donati has come out and said that he's in support, and it looks like anybody who was on that train about the Paul Maneri or firing or making a change, that's not going to happen.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the Thursday morning episode of the early game. Bill Gunner for the Men's Clinic. Guys, as you get older, your health changes a little bit. You got to kind of stay on top of it. Don't just shrug it off. Don't just move on from it. Go visit Dr. Dan Balknight at the Men's Clinic in South Carolina. They are the experts in men's health, and what they really believe in is offering you a comfortable environment to talk about any health issues, whatever it may be, that you are experiencing. So line up an appointment today and go visit Dr. Dan Balknight. 803-875-MENS. Again, that's 803-875-MENS. You can also visit them on the web, themensclinicsc.com. Now, again, they've got all kinds of different things they can do. Maybe give you a testosterone test or just check for low T. Maybe if you're experiencing brain fog, it might be something simple to fix. But at the Men's Clinic, they believe in giving you an individual diagnosis that fits your needs and not generic medical care. So call the Men's Clinic today, 803-875-MENS.
3 home runs here at the series.
Gets a hit to pitch, and she will drive in a pair. And Texas has the lead on her first hit of the World Series.
Ah, that was the call last night as Preston shakes his head, Jen shakes her head, and I just wonder, how do you not throw a ball? How do you just not throw it outside the strike zone? Throw it in the dirt.
Well, I can't throw it in the dirt because what if the runner from third scores? I can't throw it as
point to the
Jay
dirt.
said.
Tell the catcher you point to the dirt. You're like, it's going in the dirt. It's
too risky.
Roll it up there.
Now that makes a little bit more sense why it was difficult, because if you throw it outside, then there's runner score. There's all these different types of things. So how about you just do this? You take your $1 million pitcher and you let her be worth $1 million and go get the out.
I didn't trust her. She couldn't even throw a ball. Couldn't even threw 3 of them. Couldn't throw 4. You got to throw 4. So we have.
Yeah, she knocks off Oklahoma, but she can't throw a ball.
Well, it's well known Texas is much better than Oklahoma. Well known. This is where the stupidity comes in.
Texas Tech.
Texas is better than Oklahoma. Texas is better than Oklahoma.
Well, we'll see. Game 2 tonight.
Game 2.
He'll be back on the mound, and that's what's gonna be fun. You got Tegan Caven, who was 4-0 in her career against Nigeria Kennedy. I'm sorry, and we'll see if they let her throw tonight.
Yeah, you got that tonight. NBA Finals tonight. Pacers, how do they get it done?
Ooh, I don't know. How do they get it done? It's the reason why it's going to be so difficult, as Elmina Hassan pointed out, is because everything they do to other teams, OKC is going to do to them, except a little bit better. They're just a little bit more upgraded at each specific position. So how do they win? Maybe if they can try and get SGA to not get to the free throw line as much. Maybe not let him get to his mid-range spots. That might be a possibility, but it seems like it's going to be a tall task for my Pacers.
Yeah, that'll be again tonight. You'll have both of those things going on there between the NBA Finals, the College World Series, the College Softball World Series tomorrow. Baseball regionals get going, and count me in for the. I think for some reason last weekend I wasn't sure if I was really into it. I think this weekend I'm kind of excited to see some of this, especially talking with Chance Miller yesterday, talking with Kevin Schnall last weekend, and seeing what Coastal Carolina can do down on the plains against Auburn.
Yeah, there's always one to have a vested interest, and so we have some connections to that, guys. You've heard Kevin Schnall talk on this show. Not to brag, but we did have him here, and then he makes his national appearance where everybody else sort of starts paying him more attention. But when we interviewed him here, we got a very quick idea about who he was, and he was very focused at 6:30 in the morning or whenever we interviewed him. So that is a series I'll be watching.
So that's kind of your sports there, as we'll get them all going tonight. We did our Braves Chop Talk earlier, and Braves today 12-15 against Arizona, trying to not get swept, trying to not really be eliminated from the National League East before the end of June. And Preston, we kind of talked about it a little bit. They're trying to chase the Mets and the Phillies. They're on the brink of being eliminated. It's going to be really hard to catch those two teams.
Yeah, is this one of those cases where the National League East is like the SEC, where maybe you're pretty good, but based on the people you have to play in your conference, it's not going to be able to compare? Because I would say the Braves are not. They're obviously not the Rockies. They're not any of these really bad teams, but based on where they are, to overcome and get either a pennant or a wild card spot is getting increasingly more difficult.
Well, and the other part about this is that they do have a window, and the window is going to be open, but you thought maybe this was the year that they would kind of hang on for April and May and then get Spencer Strider back and then get Ronald Acuna back. And you had these guys, and okay, if we just hold on, they kind of did that. They obviously got off to the awful start, 0-7, but they kind of held on. And now it feels like the wheels are coming off. Strider is 0-4 on the season. Acuna has come back and has done some really good things, but he's not able to carry them by himself.
Yeah, he cannot. As long as those other guys are not hitting well, Matt Olson, Austin Riley struggling. Those guys are struggling around. So we'll see. We'll see. Baseball's a long season. You always got that one in your back pocket.
I'll leave you with this. If you hear a certain name and you find out they have a son who's about to go play college football, how old does that make you feel?
It's happening with more frequency now than I would like to admit.
It is, unfortunately. Charles Woodson, one of the first players I really remember in the college game, and Heisman, the 1997 Heisman winner. Michigan yesterday offering his son, 2027 safety Charles Woodson Jr.
That feels okay.
Are you okay with that one?
That feels okay.
Okay.
I feel like when I watched Charles Woodson in my youth times, it's when anybody who either I played with or played after me, when they have, I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, that I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, Charles Woodson he's the before times.
It's been a lot of fun. We'll come back tomorrow. Chris Deering will do one of the final high school highlights of the week. State championships finally wrapping up. Also, we'll talk about the Power Boat Run on Lake Murray coming up April 21st. Brett Lasso will join us. We'll have a lot of fun tomorrow. We'll find stuff to cut up with and a lot of stupidity.
Appreciate y'all.